everybody's here, we'll go ahead and start our meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting for May 14th. I guess whenever you're ready, you can start on personnel updates.
Sure. So we are in process with several of our job searches that we're working through. We've been interviewing for the curriculum supervisor. We're moving into second rounds with that next week.
What kind of response did you get?
Curriculum supervisor was, I'd say, average for the need and the timing right now.
And what is kind of an average number?
20-some
Yeah.
applicants?
Is that
Just
right?
under 30. Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's very good, isn't
It was
it?
pretty good.
Well, I was going to say, but you have to take into consideration whether or not they were qualified.
Well,
So we
right.
have 30 applicants.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you could then whittle that way
Yeah,
down.
so probably I would say maybe 12 of value, you know what I mean? Which isn't bad. I don't think it's a bad pool, but you know what I mean? 30 sounds great, but
It does. And we started
Yeah.
with 10, so we're working our way down from there. Right now, we have open Mrs. Lanning's position, the Executive Director of Student Services. That one is a little smaller. That's definitely a niche area, and you need a certain licensure for that one. So that closes, I believe, with the Limuth principal. Also, that one, we are getting higher interest on that just because it is a administrative principal position. Both positions we have, or all positions, we have internal and external interest on. So Limuth principal and executive curriculum director close this weekend. We'll move forward with screening those then. I know we have started the process of the treasurer search. We're getting together materials to share then to get that moving to meet our timeline. Also working through some other, just kind of filling in the holes on the schedules. Teacher-wise, we had some openings at Limuth, doing some shuffling from campus to Limuth. We had some retirements that created natural attrition. So as we work out the schedule, I think there's 2 or 3 teacher positions that we are looking to fill. I'm in process with those with Dr. Bassage. The org charts, Mr. Keeney, you had requested those, so I can share those once we get through kind of the personnel items here. Again, that's what I was having fun printing. So staff appreciation, it's Staff Appreciation Month. At the beginning of the month here, the board, on behalf of the board, shared bagels with all of the departments and buildings. So those were sent out and shared. We are planning a...
Should we say you're welcome?
You absolutely did. Yes. We are planning a local food truck, from Geauga County to come and visit all of our school buildings to provide a meal to either a breakfast meal or a lunch meal. Those that have shifts outside of the hours that the truck will be there, they're going to put in an order to go, and it'll be waiting for them in their work area when they get there. So that is happening in the next 2 weeks here from the district as appreciation comes. And then end of the year, we are planning a celebration to recognize the hard work done this school year, the retirements that we have coming up. We've done it for the last couple of years. We've kind of brought it back, so we anticipate a very good turnout. We're encouraging all buildings to kind of shut down during that last teacher day. We encourage our classified staff while they're off the clock officially that first Monday of June. We'd like to have them back just to celebrate with everybody.
So what does that consist of that day?
Typically, we have nice, we've made retirement posters to celebrate those years of service, that have put in time. We have those up and displayed. There will be some kind of food and celebration. Typically, we'll hear from Dr. Rotino. But just a nice, light kind of afternoon.
Well, that happens
Chuck,
one location.
Chuck usually
right?
makes hot dogs. What's going to happen here?
We
We're catering.
yeah, they're catering. They took the grilling away. I'm
We actually have a lot of leftover bagels from breakfast.
We're gonna make bagel chips.
My hair is just starting to grow back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be
That's right.
near the field house. We use the field house stadium area there. It's a nice gathering spot, ample parking for all the staff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the board agenda, it's going to be, this is typically the heaviest that you will see the board agenda for personnel. We are working through the end of the year personnel closeout. So essentially all the temporary appointments, they get non-renewed annually. Those are our tutors and anyone that would have had a 1 year that is not continuing with us. This could be teaching, non-teaching staff across the board. We non-renew all of our substitutes, our classified substitutes annually as well. So they actually are on the agenda for non-renewal. It doesn't mean that they won't be rehired based on staffing numbers. We kind of fill in those blanks later.
That's just a year-to-year thing?
It is.
Okay.
You'll also see all of the contract renewals for our staff, anyone that is going from a 1 year to a 2 year or 2 year continuing on from that. So it is a pretty lengthy agenda. You will see our summer workers approved on that as well. Any remaining ones that we have, we anticipate to have those on. Again, we're running the summer custodial program. Right now we have 47 staff members signed up that don't work over summer. So it's pretty exciting. They want to get out there and get dirty with Mr. Arlesic. So we're going to start orientations on that, but they'll be on this agenda as well.
So does that cost us more than what we used, obviously, than what we used to hire when we'd hire, like 9 students or whatever?
It does. We paid the 9 students, I believe, at minimum wage, and I think the custodial workers we paid starting at step 0 for the
Right.
custodial scale. So it does. The work quality is better.
But that's a lot more. I mean, when you have 47 people taking the place of maybe 9 or 10 kids.
But they're not all working
They don't
all
work-
day every
yeah,
day,
it's-
so
it's-
it's very flexible, so people can work, maybe someone can only working 1 or 2 days a week and not like, in the past it was, we hired so many people.
Right.
But some years we've had up to 30, because when we were opening the schools, but they were basically 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, where not all.
God bless you.
These people work at their pleasure?
Yeah.
They do, and
They
they
work.
do a lot to help our custodial staff get things moved out of classrooms or just extra hands with the custodial staff. So the custodial staff are actually able to get to more than they typically would have been able to during summer. I believe, Gary, are you gonna cover the continuing contracts, or do you want me to continue there?
I can touch on it. We have 3 teachers who we are recommending, their principals are recommending them for continuing contracts, Dylan Lytle and David Shook at the campus, and then Jonathan Breach at Lamouth. So they're being recommended for continuing contract. And then as well, we have,
We really can't deny those because they submit their paperwork and they have all their stuff.
we can, so when they.
Not that I would, I'm just
No,
saying.
no, at this point, these ones have been recommended, they've gone through the evaluation process, they are skilled and above in evaluations, as well as we've made through all of the actions that's there. The principal can deny continuing contract of a staff member if they feel that there are some concerns or that there's some issues that are there. In these 3 cases, they don't have any issues. As well as administrative contracts, we have 8 administrators who are up for, directors or administrators who are up for contract renewal. I'm recommending 3-year contracts for all of them. They are all, I've been blessed with an outstanding team. They're wonderful. Kyle is he's finishing his 2nd-year contract, recommending him for a 3rd. Rich is just another 3-year contract, he's off. Mike Hall again is,
Let's go from the first one that you just mentioned. That was Director of Transportation.
Yes.
Correct? He's currently on a 2-year contract?
he was currently hired on a 2-year contract. We hire
And then-
every administrator as an
and
initial
then-
2, and then it rolls to a 3.
And that 2-year expires now?
It expires, yes.
Okay, so then he's gonna go to a 3?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's pretty much the same with all of these?
Rich
All the rest
Arlesic
there.
is a 3, rolling to a 3. Mike Hall is a initial 2 to a 3. Melissa is a 3. She's been here forever. I think 31 years, I think I counted. So she's served.
That would be accurate.
So we have, John Renwick he's been with us longer than 2, but he's been in the district for 2. So he's ending a 2-year district contract, and we're recommending him for a 3. Mike is the same direction. Mike is in the same boat. He's the assistant director. Becky Molinas is a campus assistant principal. Mr. Hall is recommending her for a 3-year contract. And then Julie Weber is the Parkside assistant principal, and Mr. St. Clair has recommended her for a 3-year contract.
Melissa, on the 3-year, do you need more than 1 year?
I don't know yet. Technically, no, but I'm not committing to anything yet, so.
And Dennis, you really don't recommend an administrator for 1 year unless there is a concern.
Okay.
Because there's a
And we
lot of
would have-
stipulations that come with 1 years.
I get
Okay.
it.
So,
Yeah, we would have to document that, and we have not There are no performance, I mean, we are continuing to perform
Okay.
and we go up, so.
Thank you, Chuck.
Oh,
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to
We
be
come to
here
you
for
guys with
years.
one ear,
Yeah.
there's usually.
So we-
To do the one-year contract is start looking for another job.
When we put a, yeah, so you're allowed to give an administrator one-year contract throughout their,
One time.
one time, throughout their employment. So it's not it's not something that we foresee or take lightly.
Okay.
And we would recommend them, that's to get all of your ducks in a row, to make sure you hit all your evaluations and timelines.
Right.
So I'll jump back to the org chart, and again, Mr. Keeney, just for your request, I'm gonna come around and pass these out. A little bit more of a visual view than the spreadsheet that we initially shared. So this, by building and then by department gives you our current numbers. I've also included enrollments if it is in a school building. So across the bottom is the key. It's either exempt staff, classified staff, certified staff. Those should all sit together.
That's much more readable already.
Okay.
In trying to put them into
Well, so that's
a sheet of paper, one of the issues
Wait,
is,
what, huh?
in
that's
terms
all
of.
the windows. You-
Oh, that's all mine?
And all that.
Oh,
First grade teachers don't report to kindergarten
Sorry,
teachers or any of
it
that,
wasn't
they're all kind of
stapled.
the same.
Right.
So it kind of just puts the people who are at a building and the numbers.
Oh, this is,
Why is this on mine? Are these all the same?
No, they're all different, so it's, if you look on the corner, it's a,
Oh,
Mr. King asked for one for each building, it's kind of just to get a real overlay of who in.
okay, but a lot of it's duplicative, right? I mean,
Well, it's for each school.
Numbers are different, depending on what school you're at.
So if you're
everything on
looking-
the left is, okay, that,
If you're looking at the school building, we have latchkey, nutrition, custodial, teachers. We have services at all school buildings. Latchkey is only at our elementary building, so it is, but then the numbers are underneath the job titles. Across the bottom is the key of the number of classified, exempt, certified administrator or director. And then the external services typically are falling under the student services department. They are not, if they're in that yellow color, they are contracted employees, not direct Riverside paid employees, but we do pay them.
And those services vary month to month or whatever.
They do, it really just depends on the need at those particular areas and the supports. So then as you get to the departments, it's obviously a little more lean, because typically they're either classified or exempt staff.
so can I ask a question as we move into deficit spending? What's a low-hanging fruit on these? Like, are we moving up class, are we gonna think about moving up class sizes? Are we like, so that we're not at 16 in some classrooms?
We are doing that this year,
Do you know what I
so
mean?
we are absolutely looking at some, reduction through attrition, we've got a lot of reduction through attrition at the high school especially. I think the only positions we are truly ultimately, retirements that we're replacing out would be the teacher retirements are 2 at the middle school, but some of them might be pushed from other reductions going through. We're going through and looking at enrollment sizes and all of that. And we are finalizing the seniority list and putting together a RIF list if we would need it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious, it's the same thing we do at work and all, like, you were in good times and you add stuff, and
We
then all of
have-
a sudden you're not in good times, and then you look around and you say, man, we're pretty middle to top heavy. Like, do we need to cut some of those positions, or can we do without some of those positions, yada, yada. Like, we have a lot of assistant principals now that we didn't used to have, we have a lot of psychologists that we didn't used to have, we've added a lot of stuff. Like, do we need every single one of them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, and that's exactly what we are, every time somebody leaves, we're asking, do we need to replace, how can we streamline it, who can pick up some of the job responsibilities. That we did that in central office with the assistant superintendent, and kind of shifting some things around and realizing.
I guess I'm not even asking, like, as people leave, I'm asking, like, are there things that we can actually start to think about? Do we really, right, we did it because we had the funds at some point, or we had.
We are looking at those as well,
Okay.
and coming up with those lists, so.
Not that you want to do that, but,
No, it's not that we want, we want to have that at all, but we do have some things that we're looking at, what's the, different tiers, and what's going to truly impact instruction, and what is kind of ancillary services that won't.
That's very good, Mallory, I appreciate that.
Sure.
If you could forward a copy of that to
Okay.
all the board members, that'd be great.
Okay.
And that way at least they can have that information.
We'll add it to the Friday packet.
Okay.
I know, this is really good.
I'll also make sure that it's spelled correctly. Amanda doesn't spell check.
What did you misspell?
Superintendent.
Right out of the gate.
That's all right.
Just saw it this morning.
On all of them.
And assistant
Yep. Oh,
superintendent.
Yeah.
It's that muscle memory, right?
It was probably a copy and paste and it added assistant.
It
to it.
absolutely was.
Are you redoing this then, when as the reorganization and central office happens?
Dr. Regino and I have talked about.
Okay.
We can make it living, breathing,
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
because
this
in
kind-
2 months, this becomes
Well, yes, this is-
inaccurate.
current to right now this school year.
Right, we have to see what's
What's
going
here
on
and then
now,
what we're
and then
moving forward.
where does it go from there? And yeah, everything always manipulates
I would-
itself as it goes along.
I would also, some sort of date stamp on it as well,
Sure.
so we can,
Revision date.
yeah,
Good idea.
Okay.
I'm good for one a day, I'm done.
Anything else?
Not
All right.
Right, board agenda review. All right, on the finance agenda, as always, our monthly financial reports will be on there. We will also have the 5-year forecast approval, so I'll be talking about that here in a few minutes. There's a contract on here for Kids Link. It's a special education program for a student that we have. We have this current year, we'll have a contract for next school year on the agenda.
What does that consist of? Kids Link?
It's a special school for a student we have placed out of district,
Special ed.
special education student,
That has a lot of needs.
significant needs,
And costs?
that as well.
It's a $95,000 cost, I believe.
For one student for 1 year?
That probably
And-
doesn't include transportation.
It does not.
So out of that,
98,000.
98,000. So out of that, what kind of reimbursement do we see from our, you
So-
know,
So this
state
one
or
would,
federal?
this one would, well, we would follow what's called threshold costs on this student, because they'll obviously exceed a certain dollar amount. We do this, what's called threshold cost filing each year of all of our students who exceed a certain dollar amount in cost.
What is that certain dollar amount?
It depends on what category of
Oh, okay.
disability they have, so I think it's the highest one's 36.
Low 30s, I know.
And basically, every school district in the state files this, and they have a set pot of money that gets allocated, that gets prorated out. So you never know your true reimbursement amount. Recently, it's been the third, well, it was up to 40-something, now it's probably high 30s. So
It's been as low as 18.
it's been as low as that. It kind of depends on the year, and that reimbursement will come the following fiscal year, so it's a year behind.
And we just filed actually, the end of last month for
Last year.
Last school year.
which is the window of time that
Mhm.
Department of Ed. you know,
Sometimes we
gives
get
us.
it in what, June?
Yeah,
Sometimes you
I think
get it
it
in
was
May,
June.
sometimes you get it in June, sometimes you'll get it in July, so it's not even until the next fiscal year, so.
So I guess I'm just,
So-
what I'm trying to find out, just as an example in this case, could we expect a 50% reimbursement
No.
or 20% or?
I would say
Probably between 20 and
to
30
20 and 30 would be a rough estimate.
in general.
So,
But it's one of those things we're required to do.
I know,
Yeah,
and
it's-
that's what I'm trying to get at, I know,
Yeah.
it's a requirement.
Right.
The student lives in the district, but has no physical relationship to the district because he's elsewhere,
So,
correct?
Yeah, well, he started off in our district schools as a student with special education needs. It's a team decision. Our schools don't have the services that are
Right.
appropriate to meet that student. They then go to outplace them. What we are finding is the schools that service students with these levels of needs do not have spaces open. So we continue to have to look at other schools that are there. So there's a significant need for students like this. We are working with the ESC of NEO to try to open another school closer in proximity to the district, because not only us, but also Madison and Painesville City have students with these needs who could use these specific schools as well. So we're trying to find closer spaces and spaces that are more moderately priced and yet offer, if not the same, if not better services for these. It's just, you have to find classroom space, you have to find availability, a place that's willing to run it to get staff, because it's not feasible for us to put the staff in place for one student.
Right.
But if we could pull our resources together and run it through a third party, then we can bring in other students and actually kind of share the cost a little bit.
Is there interest from the other
There is,
districts to do
there's a
that?
lot of interest in it. It is about finding, part of it is finding physical space for them, finding schools that have space. I believe Painesville City is looking to kind of, as they're seeing dramatic declining enrollment, to try to open some space up in one of their buildings. But it's also, they have to be willing to take it on and all that. But I know that using a party like the ESC of NEO has been really helpful with some of that.
I mean, would they be the coordinator of all of that?
They would be the coordinator, they would run the program, they would be the charter behind the school as well, and then we would work through them and pay through them, but it's usually at a significant cost savings. So one of the things we've done is as many units as we can house in our schools, we bring them in, there are students who want to keep them in our
Right.
schools as much as we can. It's good for the students to be at their home school, but it's also a realized cost savings as well.
Right, so, okay, that sounds like a very good approach. It's just, we're making that happen, I guess.
So it moves slower than we would like, and it's getting it off the ground and making sure that all the licensing is there, and that the certified staff is there to work with these students. It's very difficult to find teachers who choose to work with this.
But if you
Teachers
had more
and support staff.
economy of scale,
Yes.
then they could attract that.
Yes, we are
that
absolutely
also.
trying to.
And, you know, she mentioned transportation, so, where is this particular student's school at?
So this one, I believe, is in Streetsboro.
Yes.
And how are we involved in that transportation
This is a private, so we pay a private transportation
to do that?
service to do that.
And
yes.
that's,
So
Expensive.
that is expensive, and we set this transportation up before we had our vans and our van drivers. We could look to hire a van driver for this as well, but again,
right,
is it one student or can you put a couple? This transportation company works with multiple districts, so that's also
that's what they do.
in terms of what we're looking at. Do we do shared services for some of this stuff to get students to one location?
When I say it's expensive, it can be $15,000 to $30,000 for a year, which is not included in that cost.
It is very, some of our students are incredibly expensive to educate.
Something which the private schools get to say, oh, we don't want you.
And we are seeing increasing number of students with behavior issues and severe needs that we cannot service within our.
And at what age does that kind of kick in, or is that vary?
Preschool, kindergarten,
I mean, the behavior things,
preschool, kindergarten.
yeah. Right from the beginning.
Bites, kicks, yes, yeah, significant behavior.
Also on the agenda, there's a few other special ed related contracts as well, one for the ESC of Northeast Ohio for the positive education program. I'm not sure if I know much details about how that one.
It's for other students they're another program just like Kids Link with special needs. Again, the spots are
Different level of needs.
different level of needs, or they've been there, and so this is a continuation of a contract where when you try to place somebody, it's do they have an opening? So we would prefer to use PEP than Kids Link because it's more local.
And there's one for educational
Educational alternatives,
alternatives,
which is
so that's
another.
another local one.
CARES is another.
We have 3 contracts signed for MentorCare's extended school year programs. That's a summer program for students with special needs, so that's on here as well. So there's multiple special ed related contracts on here. We also have Signature Health, which is our counseling provider for the district, so renewing that contract for next school year.
They generate revenue for us though, don't they?
We
Or is the
do.
Medicaid revenue going to them?
We do receive, I think we do receive some Medicaid revenue from that, and then there's also, we fund it with the student wellness funds that we get from the state, so about 60% of it, 60 to 70% of it's covered by those funds that we get from the state of Ohio, and restricted for those.
So again,
purposes.
let me ask a question on that. So when we're looking at, gee, what kind of, and low-hanging fruit are we, what kind of things can we eliminate? Will that be considered to be one of the things that we eliminate or reduce or?
We could scale
You know,
back
like-
on it. I would say that it's such a, those services are very utilized. In fact, they're incredibly, they're so needed in our schools right now. I don't know if we could do that and functionally run a school right now. Those counselors are busy. They're full.
But I would
every
imagine
single
we'd
day.
have to be like putting that on the table and saying, okay, what are we gonna prioritize?
Yes, we would,
Because
it would,
we
we have to
continue to
prioritize.
spend more and more on
Mhm.
Signature Health, and who's the other one that we're using?
We used to use Crossroads, but we're down pretty much to just Signature Health as
Oh,
our
okay,
provider.
so, you know, like, every
we-
year, we keep adding that service, and I get it, but at some point, I would think, in deficit spend situation, that's gonna be something that we're gonna have to look at.
Well, I mean, everything goes on the table. I think
Right.
it's one that, when you look at what the value add to Signature Health is, it's a significant value add for our students to feel safe.
There's also on here for Vitus Technologies, which is our security program. That's our tech department. They have a filtering program to make sure students can't get to inappropriate websites and things like that. So that's also on here for renewal.
How much is that?
That is 32,000, and that's a
like the-
requirement.
That's like the firewall stuff?
It's a firewall and it's a filter. So it's a web filter, as well as monitoring. So if students on any devices put anything that's flagged as questionable, unsafe, everything else, we actually get emails to.
How long have we had
track
that?
down.
That's fairly recent.
I mean, it's been a
Like,
few years.
But it's not
probably
been,
4 or 5, I'm
yeah,
thinking.
okay.
How many hits do you get?
I have 2 this morning,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get them 24/7, 365, it's great.
So it's an ongoing,
It's wonderful.
okay.
It is a pretty powerful program. It flags stuff that might not rise to the level, but it still brings it to your attention. It's pretty powerful.
From a parent perspective, I'm a parent in the district, you actually get, I believe it's a weekly report on things that your child has searched on their Chromebook, you know.
Did you get that in your inbox?
Yeah.
There's
Like
an app.
routinely, or do you have to go to Infinite Campus to get it? Just-
There's an
I don't know
app,
if I signed
there's a
up.
parent app that we've encouraged parents to download, and every day at 4 o'clock, you get a notification. that
But you have the app.
That their date,
Yeah.
yeah, or you could get a weekly email. So,
So it says.
Are parents very aware of that?
we put it
We
in
try to make them as aware of it as
newsletters,
we can.
we've,
Do you ever get feedback from parents on reports or anything like that?
We get feedback from principals.
Like, do we ever post that on our social media? That you have,
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen it first.
I mean, I can tell you what everything my son and daughter searched for yesterday.
Sweet.
What websites they visit, what they've searched for. I think downloads too, I'm not sure, but it's a nice service just from a
Nice.
parent.
Yeah,
perspective.
right.
Just having that knowledge, yeah, so, without bugging them about it.
Right.
And, then announcement certificates, we don't have any at the moment because we bumped them to the May 9th meeting we just had, but might be something added before next week. We also have some donations on here. The RLEF fund is finally closed out, so we have that $146.54 remaining. We have a $4,000 donation to the John Boyce Scholarship Fund. We have
John Boyce.
$1,000 donation to the Riverside Review Fund. And then we have a $21,221 donation from the Gridiron Club. Basically, they fund a few of our football coaches each year. And so we finally got, after the season's over, we invoice them and they give us the funds for that, so.
Do they pay everything?
They pay
The
everything.
benefits, everything,
Right.
you charge them back for the.
We charge them back the cost of supplemental workers' comp, or not workers' comp, because that's pretty immaterial, it's the retirement, the 14% retirement and the Medicare tax, so that's what we bill for. So that's
We
mostly-
mentioned the personnel,
Yeah, so that's mostly it.
graduates,
List of graduates.
Oh.
yeah, graduates are on there.
How many this year?
That I don't know. 300 some, I believe, right?
And it's on a Thursday.
It's on a Thursday night.
Right now, only 24% right? Who's watching now?
Oh, I am.
24%.
We actually, Thursday night is from
Chance of
October
rain.
to We Save Money.
Is it?
Yes, yes, it's at a cost savings. They have it on Thursday rather than Friday. If it rains out and goes into Friday, that becomes moot,
How
but
are we getting the 29? Why, what, it only goes to the 24th.
we have the paid app. For the weather when I do.
Does it? What? I don't know. Thank you.
This is where I start to really question my nearsightedness.
Oh, yeah, I think I need to get my glasses.
All right, I passed around two handouts. The first one is the current
thank
draft
you.
of the 5-year forecast. It's highlighted in red at the top left corner, so you know which one's
Do you
the
have this one?
main forecast.
I got them both, yes,
And
thank you.
then I also passed out a copy of the November forecast, which you can tell at the bottom has a November date on it, so you can know the difference. I believe we already looked at this at a board meeting recently.
What did, you said this, well, the one with no draft is the current November one?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it has a November.
Yeah, and the
date
dates at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yeah, okay.
So as we discussed previously, we removed reporting of the joint financing district from the forecast, so we restated the 3 prior years. Technically, by rule of ODE, it should only be the general fund in the forecast. We've always included the financing district. Never really was an issue before until now they're looking at our 5-year forecast and cash balances and analyzing those. We figured it's probably best to be in line with the other school districts and take that out.
Do they ever question a restatement of the prior years?
I don't think they ever
I don't
have.
know if they ever have, but.
I mean, I don't think I've ever done a restatement of the prior years, but.
Well,
it's-
we've had that on, off,
Right.
on, right? Like, we've done it multiple ways in multiple iterations over the course of years
Right.
since we've had that.
And it's been on since I've been here, we've left it on. We didn't change that, but there was prior my existence here. But it shouldn't be an issue because we're now strictly following what ODE and the requirements are. So it's, taking it out shouldn't be an issue at all. A couple highlights to make on here. I know there's not a lot of context to the numbers. If you're looking at the revenue side of things, line 1.01, general property taxes, you can see the increase. We had 31 million in FY '24. This year came in at 32,969,000. The reappraisal ended up being 29.8 or 9%. We were forecasting 28 in the November forecast, so it's a little bit higher than we anticipated, higher than we forecasted, but we were being conservative in November. And the additional revenue from reappraisal will fall into FY '26, so that FY '26 is updated to reflect what the actual reappraisal came in at. On line 1.035, which is our state funding line, we are basically assuming no changes in state funding. You'll see it increases slightly because there's, it drops slightly, then it increases. That's because we're anticipating an increase in the casino tax revenues, which also falls in that line. But as far as state funding right now, until we know what the state budget looks like, it's pretty much a flat line for now. The governor proposal, we would have saw a couple $100,000 in increased revenue. Under the House proposal, it's almost immaterial, that it's 20.
Like 20 grand, right?
So
Like
it's-
23 grand?
Right. So typically it's how we've always handled the state budget, because right now it's, until it's finalized, we don't know. We have to finalize our forecast in May, and they don't finalize their numbers till end of June. and we'll update in November accordingly. You'll see in line 1.04, restricted grants and aid, that's also part of our state funding. The amounts are higher the amounts were higher than historically in FY '24 because that's when we received the high-quality instructional materials payment for the science reading implementations. That's why it was $685,000 last year. This year, we're projected at $657,000. That number includes the reimbursements we're getting from the state for the teachers who get the stipend for taking the science reading training. So that's why you see it drop off in '26 back to our normal levels, because '24 and '25 are basically anomalies based on those circumstances. You know, unless there's something else in the state budget
They'll
going
put
forward
something
that
else in.
will.
Did they give us money for the curriculum too?
That was in last
And that-
fiscal year.
And that one in PI, did it not, or no?
No, that money was deposited in the general fund, and we charged that amount to the general
To
fund,
the
was
general
remaining
fund.
coming out of
Okay.
PI. And then the other thing that would have changed materially from the last forecast was line 1.06, because we used to have the financing district revenue in that line item previously, and that revenue's coming out, so that's about a $3 million drop per se. But we also had to take out the expenditure side of it too, so kind of, it's pretty much a wash. On the expenditure side, basically, the salary and benefit numbers were reduced because of pulling out the financing district, and as we know, we have a lot of staffing changes and retirements and turnovers. So right now, it's probably conservatively high estimates right now, though there'll probably be additional savings that we'll realize with all the moving parts. We gotta kind of wait till the dust settles a little bit to.
You've taken the retirements and the people who are leaving, you've already taken them out and kind of replaced them with lower paid staff?
That's the assumption.
That's already in here.
Yeah, that
Right.
should already be
Okay,
reflected.
so
there.
it shouldn't be too significantly different.
But we're eliminating positions, some of those.
He's still counting for some of the positions that we have, and we haven't eliminated those positions.
Okay.
So there are positions that we are not replacing, and there's a number of those.
Okay, so just reduction by attrition, but we
Yes.
haven't included those?
We have
Because
not.
we haven't decided whether or not we're gonna do that or not.
We are still working on the master schedule and kind of putting things in place and making sure that everything falls.
So those numbers are gonna be tightened up on the next forecast, and, you know, forecast is based on the best information today, and just knowing that, you know.
So basically, we won't really have that in the forecast till November.
Correct. And you can always do a mid-year
That's no
change if it's material, but with a change in treasurer too, it's probably not. They'd have to get in and get up to speed on things. A couple other changes, so on the transfers out, I increased by $200,000 this fiscal year and $200,000 next fiscal year. We do an annual transfer of $250,000, what's called the Termination Benefits Fund, that pays all our severance payments, early retirement incentives, you know, sick vacation payouts and those things. With the S-to-S change to 32 years, we're obviously seeing a spike in retirements now. That number that we were transferring here of $250,000 was sufficient for many years, but now we have a surplus of retirements, so we need to transfer additional money. So I divided it over the 2 fiscal years. Maybe that could be reduced in future years, but we'll kind of analyze that.
Are we gonna deplete that fund with 2 transfers of 550?
It's going, well, part of that transfer amount also includes the $100,000 we do to athletics. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, I think right now you have, what, 600, 500 some thousand in just severance that's gonna be owed in.
Right around 600.
Around 600.
That's gonna be owed.
In August.
And we currently have 2, just a little over 200 in the fund.
So basically,
We've been transferring 300,
it's 250,000. a
okay,
year.
for how many years?
Probably 6 or 7. at
So
least.
like, how much money do we have in there? Or how, like, it would be interesting to see the ups and downs of that fund
Right.
over the course of the year since we started putting it in there and how much we've actually been using. Like,
It can vary wildly, like the year that Jim retired, you had Jim, you had Debbie, you had the 2 high school secretaries, you
'cause
had both teachers.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb here, and I don't wanna take benefits away from people who are already, like, our grandfather, you know, like, expecting that as a benefit, but I gotta tell you that, like, we are extremely generous when it comes to that, and I feel like maybe we should look at that going forward. It's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot, and when we have a change like this, like, it's really hitting us hard, and people are taking advantage of it. I would take
Right,
advantage of it too, like, that's a lot of money to leave on the table when you're young and you can go out and get another job. Technically speaking, you're gonna take this lump sum, it's an incentive, it's, like, we have to start looking at that.
Well, we've had those conversations that this is a part of the total compensation package and looking at what a compensation package is in terms of money to spend. We do have a staff who's, in taking advantage of that, we do receive the benefit from it. Not necessarily the next fiscal year or 2 years out. If we're able to, one, we know we have the early data in, so we can post a position if we need to replace it right away. With somebody out of college, it's significant savings, so it's a wash for the first year. Then the second year, it actually makes
I mean,
itself back.
I get it, but a lot of times people are gonna retire anyway, whether they're getting this incentive or not, in many instances, and I feel like it just is, it's just something we have to look at. It's extremely expensive for this district, so if we could have that maybe for our next finance meeting, just like, here's the balances at the end of every year, here's what we put in, here's what we've taken out, here's the balance. Just kind of like a little worksheet,
Yeah, if
it
we
would
could
be
put something together for
helpful.
the next meeting, and maybe we can see if we can have the data on what's the early retirement incentive versus what's this year's standard.
Right, I mean,
vacation pay. Well, I won't have that breakout single vacation, but early retirement incentive, might be tricky to pull.
it's not something that people out in regular land get. It's,
And just for some historical knowledge, as part of the annual transfer of that fund is because things will fluctuate so much in a year. If you get a lot of retirements in 1 year, you'll have a lot more expense, but if you're building a cash balance, that alleviates those, in your general fund, your big swings. I know before I came here, my previous district was when the STRS changed. It was changing everything back then, and there was 1 year of $800,000 severance being paid out because there was 30 teachers retiring at
it
the
would
same time.
also be interesting to do a little bit of homework, and maybe we can have some data pulled together about what other districts in Cuyahoga and Lake County offer as far as retirement incentives. Do they offer it or don't they offer it? There is a lot that don't.
Right.
Um,
And there's a lot of differences between, typically you get paid out 25% of your sick time. We cap it to 248 days, you get paid for 62 days.
But they're also,
Some
but
go
they're
much-
getting
some
that
much-
in addition, right? Like, it would be
Some get much
really
higher, some get much lower, so there's.
interesting to see, like, what are all of those things and what do they add up to look like, and what are we offering? Like, right, you get paid out for this, you get paid out for this, you're getting this incentive, you're getting this, and geez, like, it's a lot.
Yeah. And some districts have done one-time buyouts, which.
Well, and that's
Adds
different, you're looking to
complexity.
cut, right, like,
Right.
right, and companies do that all the time,
Right.
but it's not a lot of times that they have some plan on the books that's a continuous thing.
Right.
But I think that's right, having comparison to either other districts in the county and surrounding counties. We want to know where we stand, because, that's just prudent to have.
I mean, I would like to know if we're being overly generous comparatively speaking, and what that generosity on our part costs us.
Right.
And if people didn't get it, maybe they'll just keep working. I don't know, like, right? And I get it, it saves us money to hire a young, new person, but we're also losing people's experience too, so, I don't know.
There's a lot of things to consider, and again, having comparisons to other districts is always good information to have.
Hey, before you leave,
Well, I think too, we're under contract, and it's just an RLEA benefit, but we have that, it's in the contract for the next 3 or 2 more years after this. I think we're looking at that. Having that information is
Right.
beneficial going into
right
negotiations.
now, going
as
into
it-
a new contract
Yeah,
season.
as it is a part, well, it's, RLEA still has the 2 years, but it is a part of total compensation, and it's not just percentage of salaries, but it's also,
And I-
insurance benefits, it's also.
I think
it's
we've
everything that's tied in.
many times said, hey, maybe this doesn't affect the current teachers because this is what they expected
Mhm.
and whatever, and grandfather a certain number of, years of service in, but like going forward, then people just don't get that, or like it's just.
Well, we.
Right, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, in the recent MOU, we did specify it and tighten some things up
Mhm.
so that it requires 10 years of district service. It requires,
I mean-
it's not just for people who would come in for their last couple of years and then just say, hey, I'm gonna go and get this perk. It gets we put it and we streamlined it to the intent of why we had it in the original.
Well, I mean, and it also costs us dollars when we have people who come in with sick time. 'Cause
And they-
eventually, we have to pay them.
Well, and that is correct, and we have to take this with them.
Right, we have to take the hit on that, and I think it's all wrapped up in, gosh, it's a lot of money when somebody leaves. What's that really look like? So that would be helpful. Again, not that I wanna take people's benefits away, but shoot, if we have to start looking at things, there are some things that we could probably look at and really not affect people who are here as much as they.
I think the other thing though, and I don't know how you put a number on this, is the impact of it. So is it getting the desired impact that we want? So having people retire, what are we replacing them with, or if we're not replacing them, that's an even bigger gain, because we get a more senior person to retire versus having to rip from the less senior person. So what's the difference? And what that looks like, I think that's, I don't know how you would gain that, or how you would.
Well, and
determine
if you're
that.
not replacing somebody, if you were just not replacing via attrition, that's just money out the door. But if they were gonna retire anyway, they're retiring, and if I didn't pay that.
But
I'm
if they're not gonna-
replacing- I'm not
yeah.
even replacing them with a lower cost person, I'm just not replacing them at all, so.
I think we have a lot of people who this incentive is pushing them to
Well,
retire, to
exactly,
make that
I get it.
choice. Because you can't make that, it's significant enough that they can't make it up eventually when they retire, if they work another year or
Right.
two, where they can go get a different job somewhere else.
And on the flip side, if you didn't have a retirement incentive and they continue to work and you get eliminated position, typically you're eliminating the younger staff and not the older staff, just based on the way these union contracts are set up. So there's a cost to that too, but how you analyze that, it's
Yeah,
guesswork basically. at that.
Yes, at that point, it becomes,
So nothing's ever just clear cut on anything, you know what I mean? But it's
Right,
there's a factor there as well that you couldn't really measure.
And then that kind of leads into, what do you do for existing personnel or new hire personnel? Do they come in a little differently? And let the other ones transition out, and then the new ones coming in are under something different, whatever that is. And I think that, well, are you about done with your?
I have one more
presentation? Okay.
important point to make, well, I guess two more. On the, one material change from a prior version of the forecast is advances out. It's I have $2,650,000, and why that is, well, besides the permanent improvement fund transfer or advance that was approved at the last meeting, with the Career Tech Education Grant, we need to transfer, because that's on a reimbursement basis, that grant. So we have the construction contract in place, which we had to do by June 30th per the grant deadline. That revenue won't come until next fiscal year as we spend and liquidate those funds and get reimbursed for it. So we have to have that advance done at the end of the year. We had to do this once before when we do it every year to the grant funds. But this is obviously a much larger grant than typical. And if you look at FY22 advances in FY21, we had advanced $1.8 million to ESSER when we had all the ESSER stimulus funding. So you'll see in FY22, there's a $1,889,000 return of that advance. So for this year, we're at the advance to the Career Tech Fund, and then that gets returned in FY26. So you'll see on line 5.02, you see $2,650,000 going out, which includes $325,000.
We're not spending all of that money out of the general fund though.
No, this is to cover.
This is just the grant money.
This is to cover the grant fund until.
The rest of it's in PI.
Correct. And it's an accounting thing we have to do, because if you
But
go
it's
back
not,
to.
and it's not 2.6,
It's,
That includes,
that includes, so it's 2,325,000 is what's going to Fund 499 to cover the grant. And then 325,000 is going to the PI. fund.
and the grant, they're okay with, like, showing the expenditure and the grant is gonna be what, a transfer back in, or is it gonna be the actual expenditures?
And the grant will be the actual expenditures, there'll be that return of the advance in next fiscal year. But then you'll have your actual grant expenditures as construction progresses, we pay applications.
So we're
And then
actually
we'll get
encumbering it
reimbursed.
out of the 400 fund.
Correct, which is
Correct.
why we have to do the
Just-
It is to keep us compliant with
Yeah, I get
budgetary
it.
law, because you have to take your resources available and you can't appropriate more than that. Well, we're not, because the grant's on a reimbursement basis, the funds, even though we have like the IOU from ODE that we're allocating these funds, we don't get them until we actually expend the funds out of our bank
Are
account.
we gonna expend all those funds by the end of next June?
We have till September 30th of 20.
I know, but what I'm asking is like, we're encumbering all the funds and we're expecting
Yes.
are we expecting to spend them all? Do you think we'll get them all back then? Typically,
Yes.
they'll reimburse within 30 days.
It's usually pretty quick, it's quicker
It's
than
not,
that.
the
typically.
turnaround and state stuff isn't that long, but like, do we expect to get it before the end of next June?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, because the construction is slated to be done at the end of the construction schedule, so everything to be done at punch list by February of '26. So obviously, we'll
Do
make
you think
payments.
that's gonna happen?
Yes,
I mean, we haven't
Yes.
put a shovel in yet.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
just ask them.
Right.
But you don't have to get that reimbursement as a lump sum, you can get that as
You get it at each
ongoing.
grant.
So, you know, they're just making sure that you've done your part and you've got skin in the game and.
Right. And this will, that 2.3 million, the 2,325,000 that we're advancing to 499, in July, we'll put it back in the general fund. We just had to do it for.
And
fiscal
you'll
year.
allow it to run negative the whole,
Right, because you could run negative
All
and get
year.
reimbursed on the fund. So it's just it's a year-end accounting measure. You know, if you look at last year, we advanced out 224,000. That was, we had that little Sarah grant, safety grant, 200-some thousand.
so state grants can't go negative, but federal grants can. Is that right?
Because of the budgetary law, we'd have to do this either way, if it was a federal or state grant, or on a reimbursement basis. It's
We usually reduce our appropriations in the federal grants. The only way that you get away with having negative is if you put in like a PCR, project cash
Oh,
request.
you have to have the cash request in
Yeah,
already.
which is what we had last year.
Okay, never mind.
And then they
Never
allow
mind.
you to have that, so.
Never mind.
And I do put those usually in monthly, so as we're
Yeah.
spending these down, I'll
Okay,
reimburse them.
So, you know, it makes FY '25 look quote-unquote worse than it, you know, arbitrarily, artificially a little bit worse than it would be. But it's really just, it's almost like a loan to ourselves. So if you look at like our ending cash balance between 25 and 26 are very similar because of this, how it works out. Because, you know, as we're continuing, expenditures continue to rise, our revenue stays generally flat. Well, because of that, those 2 years are gonna stay flat, but then in 27, you're gonna see much larger deficit spending in that year based on these assumptions. Now, on the other side, with the House proposal, you have that 15%, or that 30% of cash balance limitation that's
is
proposed by
that
the
on
House.
702?
Yeah, if you're looking at 7.02, the 30% cash balance limit that the House is proposing to be about 15 million, so we're still about 4 million over that amount.
Is the 30% on which line? 505?
They look at the total expenditures, so it's, if you look at last year's expenditures at 5.05, yeah, 50 million, 56,000.
So they'd be looking at, the current year, they'd be looking at 56.3.
Correct.
Okay. That's 15, so we're still over.
We're still over a little bit, yeah, but it's our hope that any reasonable person understands that does not make financial sense for school districts.
And so they're proposing, like, the proposal is that they are going to change it, it's gonna be immediate, and we're like, don't know how to plan, and so we wouldn't be able to do anything, and they'd immediately take our money.
That is the House's. The Senate has come down and said they're gonna use a little more. They've heard a lot about the 30% and they're gonna make
Sure they have.
they're gonna make some changes to it. They do understand that they want to give property tax relief, but they are going to adjust that because of all the issues in this cause.
So that's mostly what I wanted to highlight. The overall financial picture has not really changed much from the previous forecasts, other than some minor tweaks here and there. And then, obviously, once the dust settles on the personnel, and then obviously health insurance as well, we're considering status quo right now in the forecast, but that's still in discussions. We do have another meeting with both our unions next week. The healthcare consultants meeting with both unions at the same time, and just to get them up to speed on things. And we are in negotiations with OPSI. We had our first meeting last week. Right now, we're addressing all the non-financial things in the contract, all the other language things, until we get a little more clarity on the health insurance piece and the state budget. And we also had some turnover with OPSI leadership, and so that was unexpected.
Very unexpected.
So it was kind of more of a,
It was a unique meeting, just to say, it's positive. I think that what we thought was going to be very contentious will be a lot more collaborative in spirit, and we think it's going to be a solid negotiations moving forward.
Are
So-
we looking at, when we were looking at healthcare, did you include any increases or just nothing yet?
The forecast is, as previously, it assumes an 8% increase in
8.
health insurance. Obviously, until we get more
Which
clarity.
might be high considering that this year was so big.
Correct.
Like they might go down to,
And
5%.
because we're leaving the Lake County Schools Council, because they're already projecting a minimum of 12, if we were to stay
Already?
in there. Yes. Because the 22% increase was to kind of status quo, wasn't to rebuild reserves, and I think they need another 12% still to maintain where they're at and try it, and that doesn't count building reserves, so it's very good that we're leaving that, because we can certainly do a lot better than that, but,
And I do think the approach that DCW is taking with their unions, as a collaborative approach to, this is a collective issue that we all have to buy into, it's been positive. There's been a lot of, everyone at the table understands that this is an issue, and coming up with mutual understandings and mutual kind of solutions along the way are really beneficial to it, so it's not just stuck on us, we're in this together, and that every person at the table understands that health insurance is a part of compensation, and those packages and whatever, in terms of a total dollars amount, and they all kind of impact all people. So it was a great kind of first meeting when they just went through what their approach is and what their oversight is, and now really getting into some of the lines on which to
Who all
avoid
from the
those things.
administration is in on these?
It is myself, it's Gary, it's Mike, it's Mallory, well, I think Chuck was there, were you there?
I was.
Yeah,
Our
Chuck.
lawyer's there too, I mean, like Dan's there, right?
well, the health insurance meeting is just administration
Yeah.
and both unions together at one time, but the actual negotiations, they have the attorney and the OA.
Yeah.
Mallory, when we give out compensation information to employees, do we give them a total compensation letter? Or do we just give them salary?
We give them all the pieces through the Health Consortium. They put together a booklet for us this past year, so we provided that to them. It kind of has it all in different places, but total rewards, the document is definitely on my list.
You know, like, here's your retirement benefit that we put in, like, here's, if we do a match, we
It's
do
all
pick
there,
up-
they just have to look for it.
Well,
It's not one pretty page.
It's not one, but you
Yeah.
want to do, I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah.
I would
Gives
agree.
people a really total picture of, I don't really just make this,
Right.
oh, by the way, did you know we do this too? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like all those kinds of
Salary
things.
notice, just
Uh-huh.
a salary.
Yeah, I think something like that could be a real true
Really
benefit.
helpful.
Yeah, I would agree.
You'll have that done next week, right?
Okay, let me just bring up something that, I'm sure you all got a copy of, this email that Bill Robertson sent us. highlighting some things. And I think it goes to some of the negotiations and all of that. And where on there, I guess, since have you had your initial meetings, do you foresee any other resources that you may need to help your way through that journey?
I don't think so. Typically with the third party, we have Dan who sits in on them with us and kind of serves as that person to assist us. And I don't see this to be any sort, when we initially sat down and we had said, hey, they could be contentious, I don't see that to be the case anymore. I see, we are cleaning up some language, we're making some things very clear, listening to kind of what their desires are. We all understand from the thing, and it is truly, even in the quick shift in spirit of negotiations, it shifted right away, and it was just tell us about what you think. And then really to work out what the concerns are, and working through what the proposals are asking and saying, kind of spelling those things out.
What about the difference in existing and new hires?
We haven't even broached that process yet to talk to it about it. We've done some, there are other districts that do it. We've talked with some of their staff who are impacted by that. It does sometimes cause a divide between new and old staff, and some animosity towards that. So there's.
You mean the new staff comes in at something maybe
something less than
and-
the old staff.
And they're upset about that?
And yeah, and I think that's in looking at how do you navigate those waters. In talking with RLEA about it specifically down the road, and in the future, that is not something that at this point, because they are under contract for 2 years, but they had shared that they feel all teachers should be treated equally, regardless. So it's a little harder sell to them, I would think. OPSI is a little bit different in their aspect where we are looking at how do we support our old staff a little bit more, and those who are loyal. OPSI is those who are very loyal to us. We want to make sure we continue to keep them. And
Well,
those
right,
are,
yeah, because-
and those are absolutely the positions that are, I don't want to say harder to find because they're all hard to find right now. But in terms of when we have openings, and the turnover is typically higher in OPSI as to when they are and when they come up too, because they are year round as opposed to teachers, which are usually summertime.
Well, we're just kind of looking for sustainability over the long haul.
We absolutely are.
And they have to understand that too. There's a
Yes.
lot of people here to make all of this happen,
Yep.
and they're necessary.
They are.
And so
Yes.
how do you make all of
So
that work?
I think we've done a lot of conversations with DCW about language, and DCW has some unique approaches to negotiated contract language and some ideal for bargaining language that they have, where they talk to specifically, spelling out what the district is willing to do in a language contract versus just a general, hey, we're gonna give you this for this, and whatever the cost is, we incur the hit. Now, it's more shared across the board. I think you see that in the districts that they work with, they've shared some of these languages where the district is willing, and we are assuming a certain percentage increase. Anything above that is on the employer, or the committee comes together to decide how they're going to adjust benefits to make sure that they're under the threshold.
Do we currently charge family plans more than we charge single?
It's just a
It's
percentage.
a
It's just a
percentage of what the
percentage.
plan is.
Yeah.
And to be fair with the OPSI negotiations, because of the circumstances that occurred, the one individual left on the bargaining team was not planning on leading the negotiations and ended up being at the table by himself. And so we walked through what OPSI was proposing and asked some questions, but he had not really even had a chance to review what the district was proposing. So the first meeting was,
He was there more from a historical perspective, and now what they do, and so even some of the questions that OPSI was asking for, when we asked for some clarification, he did not know. So he had to come back and.
He's got to get up to speed.
He's got to get up to speed quickly, and so we're coming back to give them some proposals, and I think we can wrap a lot of this up along the way. I think it is about the state budget, and then with healthcare coming to be, obviously, we're gonna have to either open it up or do something like that, because that starts January 1st. And their contract is up in July. So it makes it a bit of a challenge in terms of what that looks like along the way.
Okay.
And he's got to determine if there's other OPC members who want to join him on the bargaining team, because it's not fair to be by himself, because it doesn't, he should have support from his people as well.
And
So it's-
And do they choose amongst themselves who's gonna be there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
I also think too, what we currently offer, when we made the adjustments to OC as well, their healthcare offerings are different. There's an administration, they only have access to the current Plan 1, whereas the teachers still have Plan 2, which they are grandfathered in, which is a much richer plan.
Mhm.
So OC has noticed and they understand it and have moved a little bit towards, understanding how healthcare is part of that compensation. So they're very open to looking at what this looks like.
Okay. All right, we'll just keep us abreast on all that.
We absolutely will. Like I said, we are in a much better, optimistic.
Okay,
I don't
good.
think the average employee understands what their benefits cost at all.
Of
I would-
course not. No,
I would
they're
agree
just
with
going
that.
to work and getting a paycheck and, why bother
They
thinking about
they
it?
don't realize how expensive it is to actually have them in addition to their salary. It's,
I think there is an education campaign and a component that comes with all of these switches, all of this healthcare, and not a,
and it's not an
No,
meaning
no,
of
not-
animosity, it's
no,
just
I
a
would
way
agree.
of, like, it's education, like, folks, you.
did you
like-
know?
Like, do you know this?
Yeah.
Like, from
I-
the employer's perspective.
I would absolutely agree with that, and I think that's a big, as we move forward.
It's all part of the transparency.
This is what it is, these are all and the why behind things. I think it makes some of the whys a lot easier too, if you give them all the
The
information.
why is a good thing because at the board thing last week, it was all about the why.
Exactly.
Okay, so, yes, the
When
why.
you work with adults, you always want to start with why. Why are we doing this?
You good, Gary? Mallory, do you have anything else? All right. Anybody? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.